PrymalChaos. Hey guys, PrymalChaos here, welcome to the channel. I did a reaction to Poppy not too long ago of her track Spit, which I know was a cover, and it caused me to do a little bit of a deep dive into who she was and things like it. When I say a deep dive, actually more of a shallow dive. I did a little bit of Googling and I checked out some of her more formative YouTube experiences and things like that. So that was something. But yeah, so I still feel like I don't really know who Poppy is. My instinct tells me that she's purely like, for want of a better term, she's like an artistic prism that she focuses all of her creative energy through and popifies whatever, you know, she does. And I hear from the comments and things like that from you guys that she's very eclectic and she pretty much drives in whichever direction takes her fancy that week. And I really appreciate that. Fans of the channel will know that I'm not a huge fan of genre. It's useful, it's utilitarian, it's great for categorizing things and for, you know, finding new things that you might be interested in. But I feel like as far as like trying to achieve a spot within a genre, it stifles creativity somewhat, right? So anyway, Poppy seems to exist outside of all of that nonsense. And that really interests me. So when I saw this video drop like an hour ago, I thought I'm in a great position right now to jump into something brand new that will give me more, maybe some more context into who Poppy is and who she is in 2023 at the very least. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. But before I do, I just want to say this video today is brought to you by Enchroma. Enchroma make glasses for colorblind people like myself. So if you or anyone you know is colorblind, click the link in my description. It'll take you to their website where you can get a free eye test, find out if you have a deficiency, and if so, what kind. And while you're there, maybe you can pick up a pair of glasses that will help you see the world a little bit more like everybody else does. So here we go. Let's jump right in. Poppy Knockoff. Again, no idea what this is, but yeah, like hopefully it's as impressive as the last track I checked out. So I guess we'll find out. Here we go. Okay, different vibe for sure.
Want that real shit, real authentic. I don't want no fake love. Want that real shit, real authentic. What is it, boy? Trailer park boy. I can't take no polyester. Tell me what you synthetic or
wow, this is interesting. Wow. Okay. So it's completely different. Like the last song I checked out was, you know, I was commenting on how it was very sort of punkish and had like this kind of energy, like early 90s drum and bass rave music kind of aesthetic mixed with power punk, or like just aggressive punk as well, screamo, that sort of thing. It was this whole melange of character that just pushed into one song. This, on the other hand, is completely different in that it sort of rides a pretty strict formula of like almost like a club beat mix thing, kind of like I mean, I could see someone like the Pussycat Dolls or somebody doing this kind of track. But the interesting thing is she's talking about realness. And, you know, a lot of those sort of artists that sort of produce music like that, it's more about casting this veneer of falseness, like a facade, like fakeness, right? And it's usually about money and power and, you know, sexuality or whatever it might be. And at first glance, you could confuse this for that, in that, you know, you've got obviously, you know, it's kind of contemporary dance, but it's still kind of like in that sort of vein of like Lady Gaga, slightly, I don't know if I want to use the word sexualized because I don't think it is, but it's kind of like there's an energy to it, right? But, you know, she's talking about realness and she doesn't like fake things. Polyester hurts my skin, like artificial things aren't what she's interested in. And I just think that's a really interesting message juxtaposed against this kind of music you'd typically you typically associate with fake pop sort of diva kind of nonsense, if that makes sense. Let me jump back a little bit more. I think I want to hear more of that. Like even that, it's interesting. I was noticing this shot here in particular, the way that they've lit her eye, it kind of bluntens the image around her eyes and it almost looks like they're dead, right? Normally a specular highlight will be very sharp and precise, right? If you look at my eyes right now, you'll see that like the light will cast a very specific shape in my eye and it glistens and it looks alive, right? Whereas Poppy's eye here looks dulled out, almost like a drowning victim or something like that. It's like, it's interesting. But that's what I mean. Like as an artist, she certainly works on layers. She understands nuance and detail. And I think that comes about from being her own artist rather than relying on people to come in and create her image. I think she sort of looks at it, you know, and again, I'm the outside here. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I'm sensing, but I feel like she has 100% impact in who she presents herself as to the world and what style her art takes, if that makes sense.
Want that real shit, real authentic. I don't want no fake love. Want that real shit, real authentic. What is it, boy? Trailer park boy. I can't take no polyester. Tell me what you synthetic core. I want that real thing, baby.
It's a great hook too.
Real thing. I want to know, am I dreaming? How you gonna prove to me that you're the real thing? I don't want no knockoff. Want that real shit, real authentic. I don't want no fake love. Want that real shit, real authentic. What is it, boy? Trailer park boy. I can't take no polyester. Tell me what you synthetic core. I want that real thing.
I keep waiting for the balloon to pop. It's driving me crazy. The other thing that I'm noticing too is this is really deftly positioned to be kind of a cool pop sort of, you know, track in its own right, but it's perfectly sampleable, right? I can imagine a lot of club DJs and stuff using samples from this and putting it together. I mean, you could play this in the club straight away, but if, you know, you wanted to put your own spin on a remix, it would be real easy to do and come up with something that would be at home on any dance floor, you know, in any highfalutin sort of club. Places I don't go, if that makes sense. But it just has, again, it has that great energy to it where it can be metamorphosized into a whole bunch of different things. But I mean, it's interesting because, you know, you're basically shoehorning this piece into those places where, you know, the artifice and the fakeness and all that is really at its most at home, right? Like in nightclubs and stuff like that, nobody's thinking about honesty or truth. It's all about like coercion and corruption and, you know, drunkenness and things that don't really have that purity, right? And the message of the song is kind of the antithesis of that, at least from what I'm picking up anyway. Interesting, man. Poppy's an artist for sure.
Tell me what you synthetic core. I want that real thing, baby. You look to me like you're the
It's a great mix too.
real thing. I wanna know, am I dreaming? How you gonna prove to me that you're the real thing? I wanna know. I don't want no knockoff. Want that real shit, real authentic. I don't want no fake love. Want that real shit, real authentic. Used to
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that, but during the middle eight there, she's talking about, I always kind of wanted that realness, but I didn't think I was ready. Now I feel like I am. And from what I've garnered from my little bit of research on Poppy is that she started out being this purely artificial character on social media and YouTube and things like that, almost to the point where she was like Android-like. And I likened her in the last thing to the dawning of this new era of AI, where it's in its infancy. It's really simple. It passes as human, but you can tell that it's not. That was kind of the character and the vibe. And I sort of got the impression through just like cursorily glancing at her catalog through time that, she slowly evolved into a real girl. You know what I mean? Like somebody who has dimensionality and depth. And I mean, is this maybe her telling us that she's ready to now 100% be, her own self? Like, is that what it is? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. And again, fans of Poppy, you guys know way more than I do. I'm the new guy here. So fill me in the comments what you think. Is there any sort of depth to that concept of this being like a point? She may have done that years ago. I don't know. Like I said, I've only had bite-sized snacks along the way. I haven't really taken the time to, understand the journey in its entirety. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, yeah, the narrative seems to fit that. But again, like I said, I'm the new guy, so help me out. Very cool. Very cool. Wow. Okay, let me jump back a bit. I'll see if I can find a cool frame. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. So, yeah, okay. All right. That was, I wasn't sure what to expect. Typically with artists, once they sort of move into that trajectory of getting heavier, they tend to keep pushing forward that way. It's a lot of times people will be like, I used to be a pop artist, but then I got edgy. Artists that jump to mind are kind of like Pink, who started out, I mean, we know now it probably wasn't her initial choice, but she started out being very top 40 R&B, to the point where if you look at her first CD, it's hard even to imagine that she was like a white girl, right? They really pushed her into that whole babyface kind of era R&B type thing. But, then she came out of a shell and she has her own energy and her own attitude now and things like that. But, but typically when artists do, like, Spit to me seemed really aggressively punk and, obviously had screaming and all that. And it's funny, you don't often see artists shying away from that once they've made that transition. It's almost like when an artist used to be super heavy and then they transition into like an artist that's a little bit more mainstream and top 40, they never really usually go back to being extremely heavy again. But this is really interesting. And I'm getting what you guys are saying about like Poppy just is all over the map. She just does whatever she wants, But what I do find interesting, particularly with the music video, as much as this kind of feels like a stock standard kind of, club track, the music video has a real element of corruption and darkness to it that you wouldn't find in something like a Pussycat Dolls video or, like a Britney Spears video or someone like that. And that's kind of the thing. There's always been this kind of ominous energy from what I've seen around what Poppy does, where it always kind of feels a little unhinged and a little bit sort of not scary, but there's a real subtle anxiety to it. Even if it's trying not to be, there's like this undertone, And so, the end there, like, I mean, even this sort of scene here, she's wearing chainmail. She's really got the dark hair. She looks dour. It looks like something out of a dystopian futuristic film, right? And then, you go across and again, the outfit with the cross. This is something more in line with like 90s Ray of Light Madonna, you know, like kind of like what's the song Frozen, you know, from the Ray of Light album that Madonna did in the, was it the 2000s or the late 90s? I think it was I can't remember. Either way. But then, you know, then we get sort of like this, the blackened fingers and the anxiety of squeezing the balloon and things like that. And then we go back to the dancers and the crazy lighting. But then you have this sort of thing where she drops down and sort of spreads these roots deeply into the blackness, you know? And I mean, I don't know how that relates to the message of the song being about, I want somebody who's real and honest, not someone who's fake, right? When, you know, it seems like Poppy has so many different facets to her that it'd be hard to look at her as somebody who's being 100% truthful, right? If you're talking about just relationships, like people, how people relate to each other, she's like she's a 20-sided die in a 6-sided die world. You know what I mean? But yeah, wow, this was fascinating. I really like this. This is a cool song. It's a tasty jam. The video itself has a really cool energy to it. It's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of Lady Gaga when she was doing, I'm trying to think of the songs. Like earlier on in her career, like post, I'm trying to think of the songs. Yeah, Lady Gaga, like sort of earlier in her career, but not right at the beginning. She had some interesting videos like this. But I feel like Poppy's energy is a little darker. Like Gaga can sort of take it to some sort of places, but Poppy has this kind of like, there's something behind her, like something manifesting more of a darkness, a dark cloud in her soul kind of thing, you know? And that comes across as more authentic than just trying to be scary, if that makes sense. Yeah. But anyway, tell me what you think. If you agree, if you disagree, I'd love to know, because at the moment I really don't know where I stand. Like, I like it. I like Poppy. She seems really cool, and I kind of want to invest more time in listening to her stuff, but I just don't know enough about her. I feel like she's more of an enigma at this point. So fill me in. Help a brother out. Anyway, thanks again, guys. If you feel like I brightened your day at all, feel free to support the channel. Just buy me a coffee. I'll leave a link in the description. Or if you like, the best thing you can do is just hit follow, hit the bell, like, share, whatever. Any like Discords you want to share this on, feel free as well. That's about all I got to say. Just let me know where else I should check out something different. What direction should I go with Poppy? Is there anything else that's wildly different to the 2 songs I've checked out? I'd love to know about that as well. Thanks again, guys.